Hi guys, Mike here from Comp3 Interactive. Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got something really short, really sweet for you, but it's something that I've not actually seen many people using for some reason. So just let me set the scene for you here. We've created a shop. We have a panel with 5 buttons underneath. Now what we want to do, we want to get all of these in line, just so it looks a little bit nicer. If we pop this one up here, we can grab a yellow one, pull that across, and you can already see that this is a terrible way of doing it because they're not perfectly in line. Our spacing in between is terrible, and if we were to create a new one, we'd have to try and line that up perfectly ourselves. Now that's not ideal in the slightest, and I know that putting these buttons out in the middle of nowhere isn't really a realistic scenario, but it's just to show you how well this actually works. So before we go into it, I just want to thank this video's sponsor, Gigatank 3000. I've got his links down in the description below. Go and check him out on Twitter, go and check him out on his website, have a look at his updates for his latest and upcoming games. I'm sure you're all going to love it. And also I just want to thank everybody supporting me over on Patreon. You guys are fantastic. So how do we go about putting this into a grid without manually lining everything up? Well, it's extremely simple. We'll click on our panel, or any parent object for that matter, click Add Component, and inside here we're going to add a grid layout group, and we're going to see what happens instantly. So that wasn't an edit, that was nothing like that. That is what happens when you add a grid layout group. It takes all the children, all the child elements of the element that you have this grid layout group component on, and it lays them out, as it says, in a grid. And it also gives you a few options. So we can amend the cell size, which is the size of each individual element, so we can set that down to 50 each. We can also add some spacing, so that's the spacing in between these buttons, so we can add 10 on the X and 10 on the Y. Now we won't see the Y until we add more. And then we can also go in and amend the padding around the top and the left and the right, however you want it. Those options are there. We've also got an option for the starting corner, which is a little bit misleading. It's not the actual corner you want them to start appearing in, it's the corner of the grid area that you want your first element to be in. So currently we're in the upper left because our red portion is our first child element, so we're appearing in the top left. But if we select upper right, we'll see it doesn't snap over to the right hand side, it just keeps everything in the exact same grid but starts it from this upper right side. And that's the same for the lower left and lower right as well. We have our start axis, which is the default for whether or not you want these going horizontally or vertically. We have child alignment, and this is the one where it'll actually change the positioning. So if we select upper right, we see everything clamps over to the right hand side. And most preferential that I always use anyway is upper center. Just keeps it all nice and tidy. And then finally we have the constraints, which allow us to set fixed columns and fixed rows. So say for example we only wanted exactly 2 columns, we could set the constraint to fixed column count, constrain that to 2, and then every time we create a new button it'll stick within that constraint. Now if I set that back to flexible, we can see a slightly more realistic view of how this would look. So we have a padding of 48, I'm going to bring that down, say 30, but that would mean we'd need, or we could do with adding 30 across the board, top down, left and right. So now as you can see everything stays away from these edges, and every time we add a new one in, it's going to add and append it to the grid. And because everything stays in child order, to reorganize these, all we'd have to do is drag and drop, say, this blue portion above the red, and then blue would appear first, then red, then yellow, and so on. So it's not really much of a tutorial, it's just showing you that this feature exists and how useful it actually is. So next time you're creating a shop or a level selection screen, be sure to remember to use this grid layout component. Really takes a lot of hassle out of manually aligning a load of different elements. And I think that's about it for today, so I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more bite-sized Unity hints and tips.